Welcome to Share, a podcast production of Amethyst Recovery Centers. I'm your host, Kabir Singh. At the top of each episode, we like to remind our listeners that addiction is treatable and recovery is possible. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, call Amethyst today at 855-80-SOBER or visit us online at amethystrecoverycenters.com. We're very lucky to have Ben Higgins from season 20 of The Bachelor as our guest today. This year, Ben released his first book entitled Alone in Plain Sight, Searching for Connection When You're Seen But Not Known. Ben struggled with addiction to painkillers for 4 years, but he has now been sober for 9. In addition to being a reality TV persona and author, Ben co-founded Generous International, a for-purpose company dedicated to contributing profits to social issues around the world. He co-hosts the Almost Famous podcast and is a restaurateur, opening 2 restaurants in 2018 and 2019. Ben believes, as we do at Share, that the most impactful way to break the social stigma surrounding addiction is to speak about it. We're very lucky to have him on the program with us today to tell this story. Ben, welcome to Share.
Hey, I could not be more pumped to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, you know, you're certainly a TV persona.
Yeah.
Somebody that what do you think when people say that to you? I mean, of course, you're on The Bachelor, right? I mean, you're widely known for that.
It's funny. I say it and I laugh, but I'm so thankful. I really am for the opportunities that have happened because of that. And I don't think I'd be speaking to you guys today without that show. But for me, there's not like a lot of like depth to it because it's like, I didn't do anything to become like famous, right? I didn't prep for this. I didn't plan on it. I didn't practice it. I don't have any tangible skill sets. I just got picked to be on a dating show. And now, I get to write a book. I get to talk to you guys about my story. I get to start some companies. That all is such a gift. So I'm not mad about it. It's just kind of, it's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting how certainly one thing can lead to another. Both of us are guys in recovery. I mean, it's no hidden secret. I mean, from your book and some of your personal accounts that I've certainly read and that you've been on a variety of shows about speaking to. But, before all that started, a common introduction for young people and older alike, a sports injury introduced you to painkillers.
Yeah.
And then that was in high school, as I understand.
It was, yeah. I was, I'm pretty tall, 6'5", and come from Indiana. So basketball's a big deal. High school sports are a big deal. I was a pretty good athlete. And so I kind of grew up with the identity and the thought that like, that was going to be what I did. Like not maybe professionally even, but like that college was it, I could have done that. That was my identity. And then, the injury happens and within seconds, all that changes. And so then my injury is bad enough where I had to get prescribed some painkillers just to get through the pain and the swelling. And then that went down and I was able to get surgery. So I got them prescribed after the surgery. And I got hurt again. So I got prescribed, I think I was prescribed painkillers. When I was writing, it was over a year of my life that I was prescribed painkillers. So that I always had a consistent flow, kind of like, without issue to whatever I wanted.
And you talk about that, certainly in your book, Alone in Plain Sight.
Yeah.
Which I imagine if the listeners are looking to find that, they can find that at pretty much any outlet.
I hope so. I always push people to go to like their local bookstore first and ask for it. It just helps them out. But yeah, anywhere you can find books, you can find Alone in Plain Sight.
You can find Alone in Plain Sight. And that you put that out last year?
No, February of this year. It's only been 3 months, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only been a couple months. So and you talk about that. I began to read some of it yesterday, to be quite honest, and it resonated with me. In the first chapter titled "Who Are You?" you talk about something which is really important. Is we often, I know for myself as a person in recovery, so if later on drugs, alcohol, whatever it was the answer, then what was the question? Who am I? And
Yeah.
it sounds like for you, your identity greatly anchored in being a football player, like the All-American guy, right? 6'5". Were you a quarterback too? On top
I
of that,
was. Yeah,
yeah,
I had it all. Yeah, my identity was in that. I think like sports was a good like mechanism to put my identity. It was also just trying to fit in. Like I was trying to be worth something, like have a seat at the table somewhere. So my identity oftentimes was just trying to figure out where I felt like I belonged. And sports was an easy one for me because I was good at it. So of course I belonged. But then like socially, it would be wherever I could find connection and friendships, or wherever I could find people that would invite me over to the house. And so yes, growing up, that was that, and those threads and those trends that I felt back then still continue a little bit today. But I think like high school was kind of that pivot point for me where I started. I mean, at least that's where, when I look back now, where a lot of this started, a lot of the pain started, but then also a lot of the mechanisms to try to release or get rid of or walk away from the pain started as well.
So you certainly talked to us about the sports injury, which led to the addiction part, the painkillers, and but you just talked about emotional pain
Yeah.
that didn't necessarily come from a sports injury. For you, I mean, what was it just a built-in sense of not belonging, or?
Yeah, it was. I think, and I talk about this in a little plain sight, the whole book is focused around this insecurity of mine that I felt like the outsider looking in. As many things as I could get given to me, handed to me, blessed with, gifted with, I always felt like the outsider looking in, that I wasn't invited to the party. And so I don't know necessarily if I can put a finger on a moment where that began, but it's still something I struggle with today. And it's also, I think, even to go a step further, it's the feeling of feeling insignificant, not knowing what I have to offer this world. Like I have a deep faith. But even within that faith, and even proclaiming a faith, practicing a faith, I still felt insignificant at all levels. So a lot of people, follow their faith because it gives them hope and reassurance, and comfort, and joy. For me, I just personally always struggled with feeling like, hey, I don't belong here. I feel like everybody they're in on the joke and I'm not.
Yeah.
And then it just happened even more when I got hurt and I'm entering into college and I'm like, I don't know who I am. Like this is a whole new person at this point. Like I'm going into a world that I don't understand. I'm not an athlete anymore. I've never really focused on academics. I'm just now trying to figure out how to get a degree, to get a job, to try to make money. And that felt numb. It felt painful to me in a sense. Like it felt like I was missing something.
Yeah. I can relate to certain aspects of what you just shared. I know for myself in high school, when I really discovered drugs and alcohol, it kind of dropped off the wrestling team. It wasn't that cool anymore. And the outfit looked kind of funny to me now, or it didn't bother me before. I made reasons to get out of it. And so, and I, where I was sort of friends with everyone, I didn't give all myself to anyone. And I just gave bits and pieces of myself throughout, and also like yourself, getting out of high school and entering the world, trying to find sort of my place and my footing. You went to Peru.
Yeah.
Right after, was it after college?
Right after college, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my life, especially growing up, could be defined as this consistent pursuit of significance. If I earlier talked about feeling insignificant, I wanted to matter. I wanted to tell a story that mattered. I wanted to be able to be interesting, and I couldn't find ways to do that. So I moved to Peru because I had a girlfriend in college. She broke up with me, said I was never going to leave Indiana. I said, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I moved to Peru, lasted quite a while down there, and then came back to the US because it was time for me to get a job. And, I'd spent about a year out of college at that point. And so I came back to the US hoping to find a career path. And I kind of did that. But during that time, I guess still to this day, but especially back then, I was in this consistent state of chaos and confusion mentally, not understanding who I was or where I was going.
In that time in Peru, and it sounds like service to others. I mean, you're teaching English as a second language to folks there. Did you at that particular time, did you find a higher meaning in that, and did it level off a little bit? Because I guess what I'm driving towards, it's a guy in recovery like myself. A lot of it has to do with service to others, service to God of my understanding, and how that, and so perhaps there was some sort of seed planted there in that time in being in service to others.
Well, you know, when I was 15 years old, my parents took me to Honduras for the very first time. And my life was going to be changed forever from that moment. In fact, that's what I'm doing now for a job is I started a company called Generous Coffee. We sell coffee and then donate 100% of the profits back to nonprofits. The reason for that company is because of my time in Honduras, where I saw true poverty, like poverty that was affecting everyone, injustices that was affecting everyone. And so, I always had this awareness that injustice and pain was out there, that it was very prevalent across the globe. And I found some sort of belonging and joy in the pursuit of coming into kinship with the people that are hurting. Not maybe, going down there as a savior, but coming into kinship and friendship and saying, what do you need? What do you want? What do you dream of? How can I help? And that might be the thing that saved me. Might be the thing that gave me enough significance to feel like I mattered a little bit, especially in my heaviest of moments, was those seasons of going to Peru, teaching English, which is more for fun, or going to Honduras and going to the communities that have nothing and working with them year over year, month over month. Those are the two things that might have saved me, because they gave me at least a better perspective that, yes, I had problems. My problems weren't insignificant. And I couldn't dismiss it, but other people have problems also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to, for me, when I was reading about certainly you and your book as well, that I wanted to spend some time on that subject of Peru, because it seems like that would have been a significant impact, just like you highlighted. And I know for myself, not going over to India in the same capacity, but visiting as a child, really searing into my memory, so much so, I mean, that is still there today. Folks that are really, really suffering, people on the street, trash, picking, they call them trash pickers there, for food and simple sustenance and the like, and realizing that I have some pretty significant advantages just by the fact that I was born in the United States, that my parents decided to immigrate over, and I can certainly relate to what you're sharing there. So now you've finished the Bachelor. A lot of things have opened up. You're in sobriety. You're clean and sober. Did you, by the way, did you end up going through treatment? What sort of brought you into the halls of recovery?
Yeah, I would say, towards the end, my escape was painkillers. So to numb any emotion, which is an uncommon story, but to numb everything was where I would lean on. So at most days, every day, I'd find an excuse or a reason to numb something. And so at some point, though, I became so numb that I was and so dependent that I was taking from my family members. Like if I knew they had surgery or friends, like I was taking and finding it wherever I could. I was stealing it. And I was hiding that I was stealing it. Like I wasn't going out there and be like, hey, by the way, I just stole, 2 Vicodin from you. And I realized then that like I was doing something I wasn't proud of. It was probably the first moment like that it hit me like, hey, this isn't good. Like you're definitely on, like there's something more going on than you just taking painkillers to numb stuff. Like you've got a problem, that you need to confront. But I wasn't confronting it. And there's a morning I woke up, and I'll tell you this, it's wild. There's a morning I woke up, and there's multiple things that I'd done the night before that I was not proud of, nor was it the man I wanted to be. And I went into the bathroom and I kind of washed my face. I looked myself in the eyes in the mirror, which is a super creepy thing to do if you've never done it. I like looked into my eyes. And all of a sudden I asked myself the question, Ben, are you anywhere close to the man you want to be? Or are you on a path to becoming the man you ever dreamed of? And it was an honest moment for me where I said, no, I'm not. And I got down on my hands and knees that moment and I prayed, hey, God, please help me, please show up here. I'm not going to say that everything just went away, right? It wasn't just like everything's good now. But it was that realization that I needed to get help. And so then I did get help. I didn't go into a formal treatment. I reached out to the resources available to me at the school and got assistance, got help, started talking about it. But I think my big pivot point there was after, 4.5 years, it was the first time that I admitted that, like, hey, I actually wanted help. I needed help. I was not okay. Because I think if you would have asked me 2 days before that, I would have said, yeah, I'm fine. I just, like a lot of my buddies, I just take painkillers for fun. Even though it's every day and I'm high all day. I just do it for fun, right? It's good activity. That was the first moment where I actually said, hey, I have a problem.
Yeah, that intersection of opportunity meets the willingness, desire is a special place. And for those of us like me and you that are lucky enough to identify that in that moment, yeah, and find the strength to ask for help, it's really important. And for the listeners to know that the greatest sign of strength is to reach out and ask for help, and bringing down the walls of stigma like you continue to do, Ben, is certainly laudable both in your book and otherwise. I've watched some of your videos over the weekend, is snippets of videos done and the like, and it's one of the things I noticed about you, certainly in the videos that pertain to your addiction and now recovery, was the fact that we can be vulnerable, that you can be vulnerable. You can talk about it in an open space. You came in the timeline of events, you came out with the fact that you were in recovery after The Bachelor, or was it known entering into the show?
No, it's in the book. It was just 3 months ago. So my friends and family knew,
right?
But I hadn't publicly talked about it until this book. The book felt like the book felt like a good platform for it. Quite honestly, I mean, the show would have played it up probably to a point that it would have pained me. Maybe,
yeah.
It would have been great because I could talk about. There's some people that have came out with their problems with addiction on the show and done it really well. I was still pretty fresh to it when I was on the show. I don't think I was prepared to speak on it. Vulnerability wasn't a practice that I had a lot of experience within at that point. But I speak out on it now, and I did it with the book. And hopefully it's done in a way, because it's the way I desire to do it, but that like I'm speaking out for it because I remember when I was in it, any person that I knew, friend, family, person on television that would come out and say, hey, I have a problem, or hey, this is where I've been, it would bring me a place of connection and community. So I'm speaking out for it right now for people that aren't ready to or haven't yet, just to let them know, like, hey, if they're in it, I'm not here to be like, stop, you're killing yourself. Like, that's not healthy. That wasn't healthy for me. I just want to tell my story so maybe they can see that there's light on the other side, that the story on the other side, that the ability to walk through and push through the desire to numb all the time is scary. And when you start to feel stuff, it's not easy, but it's exciting and it's actually good and it's healthy to feel again, and it's okay. It's gonna have its own pains and stars. So I guess to summarize all that, I did it here because I want to have the opportunity to speak for those who haven't said anything yet and who feel alone right now in their problems and their addiction, but also to try to add a sense of truth without an agenda for those out there who are still in it, to say they're not alone and try to give words to stuff that they're not ready to say yet.
And the book does talk about periods of time in between when you got sober, when you got clean, and obviously the release of it just a few months ago. I imagine there's quite a sense of relief there with that. Now you're wide open, right? And you got this platform, certainly the book, to stand upon. I'm not saying you remain hidden or there was something, but there's likely a sense of relief in that. I know there was for myself when I started doing stuff on a wider platform than sort of sitting in church basements and, these principles of like anonymity. Well, I want to sort of get out there and do more than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would agree with you. I think like I joked about at the beginning, because of a reality television show, I'm able to do this. I'm able to have a seat at the table and have people listen. And that is something I don't take lightly. And it's something that's super exciting for me. Something I want to try to use well. The book is a platform to do that. But if I just left with the book, it would feel like I stopped short. And so now it's like, okay, I expressed it, I talked about it. Now let's continue to talk about it. Because the best thing that's ever been done for me when it comes to situations that I feel ashamed of or that I feel like disconnect me from the masses is when I speak about it, I realize how not alone I am and how many other people are sitting in a similar place as me. So vulnerability actually connects me, especially through shared pains, to others. And I have the opportunity to do that now. So I want to continue to build a community around people who say, hey, I need to know I'm not alone, or I need to know I'm not crazy, or I need to know that I'm the only one.
You have a strong sense of faith that I picked up on.
Yeah.
A strong belief in God. Is that something that you have always had? Did you grow up that way, or is it something you established in your process of recovery?
I grew up that way. I grew up in Indiana, in a very conservative town. And so, my faith then looked a lot different. I'm not at all angry at that period of my life. I do think it implemented some biases and some naivete in my life that maybe it's not healthy for now, or that I don't use now or try to act on now. But it built what came out of that experience was a desire to ask the question, is there something greater than me? Is there a God out there? And if there is, does that God love me? And I would say yes, through life experience. And so my faith has continued to mold and kind of form over the years, except the weird part about my faith now is I feel like I know less now than I did when I was 12 years old about my faith. It's now more of a place of mystery, discovery, of trying to love God and love others, and then asking a bunch of questions and staying curious to see if there's ever going to be an answer. I don't think I could have said that. I think I would have been scared to make that statement, 20 years ago. But today I sit in a really exciting place where my faith has changed, but it's became more true, which is the story of most people. It's been more true to me now than it ever has before.
Yeah, I would say as I certainly grow older and in my particular faith and the understanding of my own God that I'm finding out the older I get, the less I know.
Yeah.
Just staying curious. I like how you put that. It's funny, really is. You just took me back. I remember visiting Bloomington in 1994. I went out to the IU there and visited it. And what we've been talking about this whole time, right? Sort of feeling different, not part of. I remember in 1994 visiting Indiana there, and like there's not a lot of guys that look like me.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, that just all washed over me, and I remember that just came back to me there. Thanks for sharing that Indiana piece there. So you're really busy these days. How do you focus on your sobriety?
I am very, everybody's busy. I'd say that's one way that I like to answer. Say you talk to one person, they say, "Oh, I'm not that busy. I don't know a lot going on." Like that's it. You want to learn more about that person because they've got something special going on. Yeah. They've got the it factor. I would say I focus on my sobriety because I've implemented some tools in my life that help me feel things in a healthy way. They help me from getting overwhelmed with emotion. One of those things is contemplation and meditation. The other thing is exercise. I exercise a lot. Obviously, I'm very careful with proximity to things that I know still would trigger me. But maybe the healthiest thing for me is I had to do years of work to identify why it was that I was abusing the things I was abusing. And I think you could summarize that in its simplest form by saying I was doing it to escape from my insecurities, to escape from my own pains, to escape from feeling anything. And so what I've done over the last few years is try to get help and implement ways that I can feel things in a healthy way. That's the healthiest, because when I dig into some of the emotions and the sorrows, or also the joys that I'm experiencing in a healthy way, I'm able to not want to lean to escape them. Actually, in a sense, I want to lean into them, and I need to be sober to do that.
So I know the listeners probably want to hear about the Bachelor's fiance.
I have a fiance. She's not from the show.
Okay. No, but that part I knew. I read about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not the one from the show. That's out there. Your fiance today. Tell us more about your life today with your fiance, and certainly your company, and some of these future forward-looking aspirations you have.
My fiance today, her name's Jessica. She is an incredible human who loves others really well and in a deep way. She's a great partner to me. She allows me a sense of freedom that I didn't think I was going to find in a committed relationship. And I'm not talking freedom, and I mean, people do a lot of different things within relationships, but my idea of freedom is she allows me to be the biggest and best version of myself consistently. She wants to see me grow and stay curious, and love my family, love my friends, love her, love God. She's a great partner to me. I hope she would say the same about me. You'd have to ask her. And when it comes to the businesses, then, she's been a huge part of those. Like with Generous, we sell coffee online, and we donate 100% of the profits to nonprofits around the world. That takes up a lot of my time. It's an incredible project, one that, I don't make any money on, and neither does any of the other owners. It's just a passion project to see if we can start a for-profit business and sell a bunch of coffee and then donate a bunch of stuff back. I do have the podcast with iHeartRadio. That keeps me being able to work for free with Generous. It doesn't take up a lot of time, and it's an incredible thing. I love it, but it just pays me the money it needs to pay me so that I can work for Generous for free. And then a couple restaurants here in Denver. But right now in my life, there's two major things going on. Well, three, I guess. Generous, my book, Alone in Plain Sight, that just came out. I hope somebody reads it and feels less alone. And then I'm working on a show right now called Hope Still Wins, which is a show where I interview people who I admire, who are thought leaders around the world, and ask them the simplest question. It's not simple, it's an easy question maybe, would be, do you believe hope still wins? If so, why? And if not, why not? And I hope that show does the same thing Alone in Plain Sight does, where just if somebody's listening, they can feel less alone by listening to it, because they hear some people that they admire talk about their own struggles and pains, but joys and successes. And so that's a show I've been doing now for last year, but we're trying to enhance it so that more people can get their fingers on it.
And where can we find that show?
In about a week, you're gonna be able to find it wherever you listen to podcasts.
Okay, cool. And then your podcast is titled or named Almost Famous?
Yeah, Almost Famous.
What's that for?
Well, it's the best job in the world for me. So it's a pop culture podcast. I know nothing about pop culture, nor do I have much of an interest. And so my co-host knows a lot. So she teaches me as we go about what the headlines are, who's dating who, why they're dating who, what's going on in the world of The Bachelor. That's just been a great project for me. I'm like the resident dad. I have been, we've done it for 4 years. Who's like, I don't know who in the world this TikTok star is, but they're dating Y, and they were dating their best friend. Like it's a great deal for me because I get to stay a little bit up on what's going on in the world.
Well, you certainly make me feel less alone. I have a 15-year-old daughter. I remember we traveled to Los Angeles. We were at some place. I guess it was called the Earth Cafe or something. She turned different colors. And I said, "What's going on?" She's over there, Dad. Over there. Those are some YouTubers at the time. I mean, they look like kids, right? I mean, they were kids. And they're, might as well have been, seen somebody. It's like Chuck Norris from when I was a kid. I mean, so
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah. So it's incredible what's happening. So these days you're very busy. You got all that going on. Anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I would. Well, first off, thanks for doing this. This is awesome. I know somebody's out there listening to you all consistently going, hey, I feel safer, more, I feel like I belong more today. I'd say it's just how I'd want to leave listeners is that if you're out there struggling, you feel alone, you feel disconnected, you feel like you're the only one that's struggling with it, you're not. I can promise you that. I don't say that to dismiss your pains. I know they are real. I say that to hopefully at some point in time that you would realize that like, even within these moments of deep pain, you have a huge value, a huge purpose, that you are so significant, that you have breath and that you're on this earth. And that in itself is something incredible. And just like Alone in Plain Sight, or just like Hope So Wins, like I would just like a listener out there who's saying, hey, I don't know if I can make another day. I hope listening to this story will just make you go, hey, I can do it one more day because I know I'm not alone and I know there's a way out. And there is.
Thanks, man. Well, we hope you join us again
Love
on
to.
a future follow-up. Yeah, we'd love to check in with you again after some time, see what you're up to, see how things are working out.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
You got it. There you have it, folks. We hope that Ben has provided you with a little hope today and that we've done our part to help bring down some walls of stigma surrounding addiction, one story at a time. If you or a loved one needs help with addiction, call Amethyst today at 855-80-SOBER or visit us online at amethystrecoverycenters.com. You can find all episodes of Share at amethystrecoverycenters.com/share or download episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us for another episode. I'm Kabir Singh, and we'll see you next time.